Back with another discussion piece, and I decided I wanted to talk about my experience with how I came to form connections and meet with strong or like minded PvP players throughout my time of playing Destiny. But before I talk about that, I kind of want to answer the question regarding how you yourself can find like minded people to play with and interact with. Friendly disclaimer though, I would be lying if I said this worked all the time. A lot of the time, you're depending on good faith and friendliness of others to become part of, or to pull them into your circle or click. Like, you could be a nice person and do everything right, and some people won't always be receptive, and that's okay. Now, the first and easiest tip I can offer you is to treat pubs or even freelance survival slash trials as a way to find teammates. Everyone has experienced it before, where they have this one goated ass player on their team carrying you shitless to win a game. Send them a friend request and ask them if you could tag along, or if they would be willing to play with you later in anything regarding PvP. Make your desire to grow or improve known to them, so your chances of good reception improve. It's really easy to come off as someone who sees a good player as an elevator to their flawless loot in trials and nothing more, so be authentic. Who knows? That player might have connections with other players who do scrims and customs for the enjoyment factor and improvement factor, and it kinda just has a domino effect from there. Now, let's say you were constantly getting unlucky with bad reception, or players don't even bother responding to your messages or requests to play. Your next best chance is to probably become part of a Twitch community or involve yourself with a community like Discord of a content creator. For example, like Ill Physics, Ascendant Nomad, Glow. You know those people. Whenever I do undercover LFG trials runs, 9 times out of 10, the other two players I'm with don't ever watch Twitch streams, or they don't involve themselves in a community or like a subset community of the Destiny 2 community as a whole. Therefore, they have to consistently rely on giant LFG servers that don't provide a consistently comfortable environment to interact with. That's one of the main reasons I mentioned this in particular. Like, you're not going to always find success in any LFG no matter what, but you don't want to be left with a sour taste in your mouth after a bad experience with other people. That's why I suggest vibing out with a content creator and testing out the waters in their communities to see if it's for you. See if their Discord has great folks in it, as well as being, well moderated. I imagine any content creator who wants to grow a community has a Discord that's well moderated, that isn't full of nasty people. One thing I will note though is that I personally don't have a terrible experience on, I guess, the mannerism side of Discord, since I'm a male and I'm not transgender or anything, but I often hear terrible experiences regarding misogyny, transphobia, and even racism on social media platforms all the time in the D2 community, and a lot of it is coming from LFG groups. If you are part of a marginalized group and you hear these things, I wouldn't blame you for avoiding LFG altogether, because gaming is supposed to be fun. That's why I can't overstate it enough. Become part of a community Discord that a content creator owns, and it's well moderated, so in the rare occasion that you do have issues, you let a higher up know so that shit does not happen. Content creators do not want nasty people in their Discord, I can promise you that. All that aside, if you involve yourself with the community for a certain period of time, people will recognize your presence and will probably be willing to play with you more often, since you are involved with the community a lot. People will see your name around, and they'll be like, oh, I see this guy around, he's cool. I'll, devote my time to help him. A little bit of a side note though, I hope my verbiage and phrasing wasn't terrible when I addressed the misogyny and transphobia side of LFG groups. I know that just even talking about that shit is a slippery slope for some people, so do let me know if I said something out of hand. Mans is not trying to get canceled. A little bit of story time here, but I'm going to go over my experience as to how I got into the circles of like-minded players. Just like most people, I had a rough start finding new friend groups and circles to click with. I really only had my IRLs to play with who got me into Destiny to begin with, who stopped playing ages ago, so they don't play anymore. But I digress. I started caring about my gameplay and started looking up YouTube content on tips and tricks, but a lot of what I found on YouTube back in the day was basic FPS fundamental shit, like playing for information with radar, communication, and teamwork. That's basic, right? But, being new to Destiny, there are a plethora of properties and interactions with the game that YouTube videos alone at the time wouldn't help me grasp. So I started watching scrim streams like Luminosities back in the day. And while there was a ton of shit I learned on YouTube videos, like, I'd say watching Luminosity do scrims back in Destiny 1, there's shit that YouTube videos would have never taught me. One particular thing that I noticed was his choice of match-made PvP playlist he would play whenever he was not doing scrims or tournaments. For the most part, he avoided any of the 6v6 playlists unless Iron Banner was around, and instead played Classic Rumble or the Skirmish/Salvage game mode. And I guess he'd play Trials occasionally for stream content. The reason for this, I asked him why he avoided 6v6, and his reasoning for it was that there was, in Classic Rumble or Skirmish, or like /Salvage, that was where most of the sweaty or good players preferred to play, so he got the best practice in these match-made modes. Like, that was the next best place to get practice outside of scrimming. So I dabbled into the playlist, and man, it was a completely different landscape to what I'm normally used to in 6v6 or Trials. It was good players utilizing great game sense and mechanics to a point where I was overwhelmed. But I came from fighting games, and you know how the saying goes. If you want to beat that ass, you gotta get that ass beat. So I had no problem getting absolutely destroyed and shit on to improve. I would add some of these players and do 1v1s, get wrecked, and they would even invite me to do skirmish at times, right? If you are willing to get that ass whooped to get better, good players appreciate the fuck out of that, because that kind of mindset is a rare occurrence in the D2 community since it's just riddled with scrub mentality. If you make it clear that you want to grow as a player, a strong PvP player would be happy to take you under their wing and take time out of their day to help you out, because you will get decent enough to a point where they may even get meaningful practice out of you, or learn shit from you, right? At least that's how it was for me. I can't speak on everyone's experience. I remember at the start of D2, I didn't know very many people outside of my close friends and IRLs, and a lot of my close friends and IRLs weren't sweats by any means, but they were pretty decent. At the time, private matches didn't exist, so the only way I did sweats or like pickups scrims was through search and eval. And I happened to be playing with and against It Had to BS, which was like the best clan on PS4 in like early D2. I showed promise as a player and proved that I could hang with some of the best on the platform, and they all added me and we kept in touch if they ever needed one for trials or scrims, or even comp back then. It was basically a domino effect, and throughout playing multiple hours of scrims and whatnot, I kind of built a network of solid players I had access to if I ever felt like scratching any sort of competitive itch. One thing I often hear from people is that they say that they are good or show promise as a player, but still can't get people to play with them. I am a firm believer that if you are as good as you say you are, and aren't a piece of shit human being, people will want to play with you. So somewhere along the line, something isn't adding up when people mention this. Humility is quite an admirable trait that's rare in the D2 community, and that will open a lot of doors for you as far as connections with other players go. An example of a player who's one of the best in the game and very humble is a player by the name of Sayariu, or Sergio, as I refer to him, who is in IM, and he's from Italy. He is arguably one of the best, if not the best controller player in the game, and he is very humble. Dude is nice and doesn't go out of his way to ego or shit talk anyone. Dude is a national treasure of a player, and y'all should go check out his content if y'all haven't. We'll leave his link in the description below. Sorry for the long storytelling, but I felt background context was important to get the point across. You don't have to suffer an LFG all the time to get shit done in the game. I will say though, the PC D2 LFG has been nothing short of a godsend for me as far as PvE goes. I could count on one hand of the 5 or 6 years I've used it since D2's been around. I could count on one hand how many times I've had unreliable LFG groups. But I unfortunately can't say the same for PvP. Remember, treat solo queue PvP as a way to find teammates, as well as get involved with community discords like Ascendant Nomads, for example. Dude has a Discord that's generally a good time and has dedicated channels for Crucible improvement, and people are offering tips and VOD reviews and gameplay perspectives and shit, all for free, dude. I can't state it enough. Involve yourself with some communities. Sorry for the long storytelling part, but I felt I needed to add the background context to offer some of my experience of what it was like to sort of be on the come up, as they say. Let me know what y'all think, man. See y'all around.
I have a lot more really now. Well, I'm gonna watch out for that.
Yep. Wow. That's a